The cinematographer, or director of photography, is often the key conduit for all the other craftspeople on a film set. Through the cinematographer's lens, all performance, direction, and design must pass, and the cinematographer's own choices in cameras, lighting, and movement can inform and further the story in both obvious and subtle ways. I will be looking at the cinematographer Bill Popp and how his style and methodology has developed over the course of 20 years. I have chosen a clip from each The Matrix, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and Alita Battle Angel to explore this. Working with the director, the cinematographer establishes the composition of the scene, the way it is lit, the movement of the camera in relation to the actors or locations, and can often have a say alongside the director and designers on which colours should be used. These are some of the things I will be analysing. In this scene of The Matrix, Neo and Morpheus are training in a virtual world made to look like a Japanese-style dojo. Neo wears a white judo suit with black trim, whereas Morpheus wears a black judo suit with white trim, representing yin and yang. The lighting is natural, which gives an overall neutrally looking theme to the set. This is done to give the illusion of a timeless and separate feel to the real world. Throughout the scene, Popp uses a mixture of close-ups, medium shots, and long shots, as well as a selection of static, steadicam, and mobile shots. This scene of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World shows Scott's first fight with one of Ramona's evil exes. Scott is wearing standard male clothing, but the bright yellow colour of his t-shirt helps him stand out from the all-black clothing of the audience. Matthew Patel's outfit is more unusual, showing how he has more of an alternative personality in comparison to Scott. Their fight takes place on the dance floor of a music venue, which is surrounded by bright artificial lighting. Throughout the fight there is also a spotlight which mainly focuses on Matthew, helping him stand out and furthering the idea that Scott's presence is less important. Unlike in The Matrix, the colour palette uses cooler tones, giving it a more stylized look. The chosen clip from Alita Battle Angel is set at night, meaning the lighting is lower key than the previous two films. The lighting motivation comes from the tungsten bulbs along the alleyway, creating a warmer, more natural tone to the scene. Like in The Matrix, the colour scheme is very neutral. However, Popp uses blue-toned background lights to add a colder, sinister effect. Alita wears a red t-shirt which looks dull when compared to the vibrant red of Nissiana's cloak, insinuating that Nissiana is the more prominent threat. Unlike many of the shots in The Matrix and Scott Pilgrim, in Alita, Popp uses many more static shots as opposed to steadicam shots. However, this could be due to still shots being easier for the CGI team to work with, as the integration of special effects are also the director of photography's responsibility. One of the jobs of the cinematographer is to decide where things are positioned on the screen, as this person is responsible for the general composition of the scene, and framing can stress narratively important detail. Camera distance specifies where characters are and how they respond to each other. As well as this, choosing the camera position is important, for it is also choosing the emotional position of the audience. In each of the three films, Popp uses the conventional rule of thirds. It allows focus to be kept on the lead subject, whilst also allowing space for other aspects within the scene to be visible. In The Matrix and Scott Pilgrim, he uses this rule to keep the action between the characters central by having them positioned on either side of the screen. Guiding the viewer's eye, we tend to pay attention to what is most clearly visible. Although Alita also uses the rule of thirds, Popp frames many of the characters central to the screen. To keep the attention on the character, he uses a shallow depth of focus, furthering the audience's emotional engagement. During a fight scene, it is common to want to know what is happening in the surroundings, so that the character's next moves can be predicted. However, by having the background not clearly visible, this can create tension, as we're most aware of off-screen space when it creates suspense or surprise, furthering the engagement with the narrative. In The Matrix, Popp frames the action so it always passes to the center of the screen. He especially uses this method when the shot is taken from an unusual angle, such as overhead or vertically. One shot uses the rule of sixths to create a more dramatic effect, and when combined with the slow motion, it stresses the impressiveness of Neo's stunt to the audience. Conversely, Popp speeds up the action in Scott Pilgrim to convey the overwhelming nature of the situation. Many of the medium to close-up shots use mobile framing, which allows the filmmaker to change the camera angle, level, height, or distance during the shot. He uses tracking shots, pans, and tilts to move from one part of the action to the other. Additionally, unlike The Matrix, the shots are a lot closer to the action. They still add to the overwhelming feel of the narrative. Having only part of the action viewable to the audience acts similarly to having an unclear background in Alita. It creates anticipation and suspense for the audience, as they can't predict what's going to happen next. Wheeler suggests that the prime job of the DP is to create the visual mood of the film, and this is primarily achieved by the use and control of light. In The Matrix, there is one on-screen light source, the window at the top of the dojo. However, as the room is quite spacious and empty, there aren't many shadows, so it gives the scene a neutral tone. Doing this eliminates any clues to what time of day or year it is, which adds to the idea that the characters aren't in a real world. The dojo itself is also bare and generic, furthering this idea. In Scott Pilgrim, the stage is fully surrounded by spotlights, which creates the effect of overexposure in some areas and extreme darkness in others, giving the scene an appearance of higher contrast between the light and dark. Contrast in the image help filmmakers to guide the viewer's eye to important parts of the frame and to give the shot an emotionally expressive quality. This is evident in Scott Pilgrim, as the bright light is always on the action, whilst the audience in the background always appears dark. Even in The Matrix, where the set is evenly lit, the background appears much darker than the subjects, which helps draw the audience's attention towards the most important aspects of the mise-en-scène. Alita is set at night, with the predominant light sources being the backdoor lights. This gives an overall warmer tone from the tungsten lighting. To contrast with this, there are blue background lights which reinforce the opposing dynamic between the protagonist and the antagonists, whilst also enhancing the futuristic mechanical sci-fi mood of the film. Like in Scott Pilgrim, there is a higher contrast between the light and the dark areas of the screen. However, as the lighting is quite low-key, the colours are less vivid. It is important that the cinematographer has an understanding of the psychological and emotional effects of the colour of light within a scene, and that they have complete control over this colour. Pop demonstrates this in Alita by having the reds and blues appear more striking, reminding the audience of danger and heightening their awareness of the antagonists. Nearly always in the course of professional film production, the need arises for certain kinds of scenes which are too costly, too difficult, too time-consuming, too dangerous, or simply impossible to achieve with conventional photographic techniques. In which case, the cinematographer has to apply alternative methods to their shots. A technique often used throughout The Matrix is slow motion. By choosing the duration and speed of camera movements, the filmmaker can pace our understanding of the plot's action. Doing this not only enhances the impressiveness of the action, but also furthers the illusion that they're in a fake world. Scott Pilgrim gives a similar effect, but by speeding up the action. The fast action alongside the on-screen graphics create a graphic novel effect. Additionally, it increases the audience understanding of how overwhelmed Scott feels by the situation. Alita attempts the opposite of both films by trying to bring the fake into the real world. To do this, all the action is kept at a regular speed, helping maintain the film's verisimilitude. It is obvious that over the course of 20 years, technological change has impacted the creation of the moving image, not just in the emergence of digital cameras, but in the arrival of 3D technology, both as a means of shooting movies and in post-production in a conversion process from 2D to 3D. As unlike The Matrix and Scott Pilgrim, Alita was filmed to not only be entertaining for a 2D audience, but also for a 3D one. One 3D film critic states that the depth of the world that Alita Battle Angel represents in the 3D space is quite impressive. Characters are properly spaced so that they don't simply melt into their co-stars or their environments, which is a compliment that could be credited to the cinematographer. However, it would be naive to suppose that artists using technologies will automatically make them beneficial. If these films have shown anything, it's that the progression of cinematography is driven by the filmmaker's vision to do more. And with the help of new technology, the cinematographer is able to combine traditional techniques with new to meet these demands.